Hi folks, so hope everybody is having a good day today so far. So as Ruth kindly introduced me, I am a career coach and by day also a technology recruiter as well, which is a job which has changed hugely in the last 6 months in particular, given the various challenges around, well, the attractiveness as well around remote working. Work from home, etc. And I suppose the various technology skill sets that are coming through and that clients are looking for as IT essentially becomes, I suppose, a key consideration for all businesses, whether that be retail, IT, pharmaceutical or whatever. So I just said to Cormac earlier that there's a Q&A, you know, and my boot in terms of IT recruitment and security focused career paths as well. So if anyone wants to ask me a question separately on a one-to-one basis after this presentation, then that's fine as well. So I'll begin in terms of the presentation for the PowerPoint presentation, which is entitled "The Behaviours and Skills That Will Set Your Job Search Process Up for Success." So I guess I was very conscious when preparing this PowerPoint presentation that the job search process is an emotional roller coaster, and I think it requires a lot of resilience to overcome the many obstacles that people would encounter as they go through the different phases of the job search process. And I think that's true whether you be an experienced job seeker or a graduate starting, or in fact even a return to work person as well, which is quite common nowadays also, you know. So what I will do is just open up the presentation fully here. We have it. Okay. So if everybody can see that, any good job search should begin with a good process. So you've got to, I suppose, in all of these stages of the process, get a second opinion from somebody, ask a client or a colleague or a friend, husband, wife, partner, whatever the case may be. You know, do you think my process and it looks good and is ultimately going to set my job search journey up for success? I suppose in an ideal world, you would build a good relationship with one or two recruitment consultants who will give you, you know, objective advice. And I think objective is the key word there in terms of your process. So I suppose asking yourself questions like, you know, how do you normally apply for jobs? Has this been successful for you up to now? So are you still looking? How long have you been looking? And if you've been looking for quite some time, then maybe you need to tweak something in your process along the way. Equally, you know, as I said, have you asked for a second opinion on what your process looks like and, you know, what your process needs to look like for you? Because you might be looking in IT, you might be looking in pharma, you might be looking in finance, whatever the case may be. And there's different, I suppose, different vagaries in the different markets in terms of the types of roles and clients that you'll be trying to catch your attention with in terms of your CV and your application as well. But I think one of the key things in this slide is the ability to journal, I suppose, and having a journal, a very good journaling system, which is essentially like a diary. So on a Monday, I applied for 5 jobs. These are the companies that I applied to, and these are the mediums through which I applied. So it might be Indeed.ie. Did you apply directly on a company website? Because I find, and I found dealing with candidates and being a candidate myself over the years, if you don't have a good journaling system, the process can be quite overwhelming. So you get a call from a recruiter about a role and you're trying to think, when did I apply for that? So, you know, and you never know when you're going to get a call. You could get a call walking down the street or whatever the case may be, and you need to be prepared. I think first impressions are important. So if a recruiter from a company or a hiring manager rings you, you need to know, oh yeah, absolutely, I applied for that role a few weeks ago on your website. How may I help you? And it's a great start to the conversation. But having that little journal with you, and maybe have it with you at all times if you're applying for a number of roles, it helps you put a little bit of order on the chaos that is the job application process, if you like. Again, another key one here, diarizing to follow up. So sometimes people are unaware of, in fact, some people don't follow up at all and they think the application is sufficient. For me, I would say that day is well and truly gone. I think you have to follow up with, you know, either an email or ideally through a phone contact with a relevant contact person within that company. Who essentially can give you an update on your application. But sometimes it's the people who follow up, catch the person on the phone at the right time, and all of a sudden it makes all the difference because maybe the other 10 applicants or the other 100 applicants didn't follow up at all. So you stand out in the eyes of the hiring company or the recruiter in question as well. So it's having that thoroughness of process to follow up. And I would suggest 5 or 6 business days. So if you apply on a Monday, you're well within your rights to follow up maybe the following Monday as well, because they have your CV and you have a reason for ringing them in the first instance. So those little tweaks could make all the difference in catching their attention as well. And I suppose this is, not for everybody, but sending calendar invites to recruiters in particular, if you're dealing with them, to see when they're available and get them to accept it, engage with you to get their time, and I suppose ultimately to get some FaceTime with them can also work. But I suppose some people might find that's a little forward, but it can work, and I think it's a good piece, I suppose, to have into your process as well. So in goal setting, I suppose if we look at the job application process, the goal at the end of it is to ideally find your a dream job, essentially, with a dream company. But I suppose, as I said at the start, the process can be challenging. It can be emotionally taxing as well. So it's the reward at the end of that process which will keep you accountable to achieving your end goal, which is to achieve a better job or a new job or whatever the case may be. So I would suggest never lose sight of the reward. Have it written down somewhere, whatever works for you, because there will be days where you get a couple of knockbacks, you do a couple of interviews and you feel they won't have gone well, or you get a couple of rejections. But it's, okay, what is the reward? Why am I sticking with this? Why is it worth sticking with this? All the energy that it takes and focus and time and everything. It's because when I do get that job, it's going to make such a difference to my work-life balance. It's going to make such a difference to my energy. And I'm going to learn more because I'm going to be in a company that I really want to be in. So I think get that written down at the start in terms of what is the reward for you to, I suppose, achieving success in your job search journey. I think would be really, really important. And as I said, never lose sight of the reward. And I think actually in coaching in general, anyone, we all have our own goals in life. And I think the reward is the piece that keeps us accountable to the goal, whether that be a New Year's resolution to give up cigarettes or whatever the case may be. I think what's the reward? Oh, better health, and so on and so forth. So I think the reward is the key piece there. And as I said here, write it down what the reward looks like, and you can take ownership of it when it's written down and it feels, I suppose, more attainable and achievable, and you're more familiar with what the reward would look like at the end, So that's the reward part. So this is, again, I'm conscious that there might be some words in here that are phrases or terms that people may not have encountered before, but this one is a really important one. So it's the accountability partner. So I think, again, when you're choosing to go on a job search journey, I suppose you need somebody, whether that be a coach or career coach. It doesn't have to be a career coach. It can be a friend, but somebody, let's say, who isn't too close to you. So somebody who will feel comfortable giving you that honest, raw, I suppose, objective feedback that you will need at times, to say, look, Killian, that application that you've just written there, if I was a hiring manager, I wouldn't hire you because there's not enough, strong successes, or, your pitch isn't elevated as much as it should be, and you need somebody who's going to give you that, I suppose, that accountability partner who will be giving you objective feedback, but there's somebody who will hold you to account along the way as well. So if you say to that person on a Monday, I'm going to apply to as many relevant jobs as possible this week. I'm going to send my CV to 5 recruitment agencies. On the Friday, that person should be checking in with you. And the first question they should say is, Killian, have you applied to those roles? Have you engaged with those recruitment companies? And they're holding you to account to what you set out to say you would do at the start of the week. So again, they're holding you to account, if you like. And that keeps you honest, I suppose, and it keeps you focused, and it keeps you resilient, and it helps you to persevere with the job search process, when the easier thing at times might be just to give up and say, I'm just going to, stay in the job that I have, or I'm going to accept second best, because it does take time. It does take time to, find that ideal role, essentially, So as I said, this accountability partner, there's plenty online and Google as well about accountability partnering and coaching. If you want to familiarize yourself, or I'd be happy to discuss it with you separately as well. This person can be a friend or a work colleague, but they need to be prepared to give you real, honest feedback, which at sometimes can be unpalatable. You may not find it easy to digest, but it's ultimately to help you along the way. And it may well be just, look, we all have blind spots in life, and it may well be just to, you know, point out some blind spots that we all invariably have, you know. So it may well be you thinking you have the best CV ever, or the best process in terms of applying for jobs, but they might see something, getting their second opinion. They may just see some little piece in there that's kind of undermining your job search or undermining how your CV reads. And it's like anything, it's great to get a second opinion, and that's the accountability partnering piece, and it can really set your search up for success. So it's definitely worth spending time trying to find somebody who could help you in that regard. Okay, so this is another one whereby I think we're all guilty of this at times. So it would be essentially something, you know, it's the way things are at the moment. I suppose it can be very easy to engage in negative self-talk. Or, you know, I can't be bothered, you know, this is just too much like hard work, or not this again, whatever. And, you know, if you're a job applicant or a job seeker, if you're in the habit of practicing negative self-talk, and sometimes that can be, you know, you can be doing it unconsciously, I suppose, or you may not be aware of it. I suppose if you get a call then all of a sudden for an interview, and your energy is down, and you're in the habit of practicing that negative self-talk, it can be very, very hard to wrestle yourself out of that, and all of a sudden come to an interview full of energy, full of positivity, and really sell yourself at interviews. So it's important to be aware of the negative self-talk, you know. And, you know, I know myself, I'm guilty of it, whereby you'd say something, you know, to yourself, and you would say, oh, you know, and throw your eyes up to heaven at something or whatever. But this negative self-talk has probably creeped in quite a lot since COVID. And, you know, I understand, I mean, people are in difficult situations as well, working from home and kids at home. And, you know, there's a lot of a new normal, and, you know, I suppose pieces where people are uncomfortable in terms of, you know, work that you're overly familiar with or are uncomfortable with. I mean, for me, I've been working for over 20 years, and majority of that time is spent in an office, you know. So it's just to be aware of it, I think. You know, I think it's having the awareness of the self-talk, that when it's creeping in, to be able to kind of manage that self-talk. Because as I said, ultimately, if you're called for an interview all of a sudden, and you've been in that frame of mind where it's just, oh, this is just like too much hard work, you know, I'm never going to get a job, etc. Why aren't they choosing me? You know, it can be very hard to get out of that habit. So everything in life is about habit. And again, it's about, I suppose, the practicing that positive self-talk if you can at all. Again, there'll be a stretch for people. It's very easier. It's easier said than done. And I know life is challenging at the moment, but again, it's about getting into the habit of just those, you know, little tweaks. Try to be a little bit more positive in your demeanor, because I can guarantee you, I deal with candidates every day in my recruitment role as well. And it does come across to the person on the other side of the desk who's interviewing you, or doing that Zoom interview with you or whatever. They can see your energy is low, and they're probably sitting back thinking, do I want this person to work for my organization? You know, does this person come across as being collaborative? Do they come across as being self-motivated? You know, and if the answer to any one of those questions is no, then they're unlikely to hire you. So you just, you know, it's about having that energy, that presence, that body language, that eye contact to really come across an interview. But as I said, it can be hard to do that on the day in an interview. It's not like flicking a switch if, I suppose, you haven't been in the habit of practicing that positive energy and self-talk up to that point, you know, because habits are hard to break, as I said at the end here. Okay, so that's the self-talk piece. So again, so this is a really important one as well. Searchability. Some people may not be aware of this. So in other words, my own name is Killian O'Leary. So if we look at it, if somebody Googles Killian O'Leary or Ruth Scott online or whatever, what comes up about them? You know, if you're a job seeker, I suppose there's two ways to come at this. First of all, if you're not in a job, the approach to where your CV can be found online, who needs to see it, etc., who can see it, is a very different dynamic to if you're in a job and you don't want your current manager to spot that you're looking. So you're slightly more or less under the radar given your current work status, if you like. But let's just say you're a job seeker and you're not working at the moment. You need to ask yourself, and again, get a second opinion, get a friend or somebody to Google you and see, you know, whether it be on Monster or Indeed, Irish Jobs or whatever. Does your CV come up with the relevant search criteria that somebody is putting in? Are you catching the attention? Is it easy for the right people, so the right recruiters, to find your profile online? There's no point in a pharmaceutical recruiter finding your CV on their radar every single time if you're looking for a career in compliance or finance. So it's really kind of, testing that, if you like, testing your online brand. Again, your LinkedIn is very important. Anyone at any stage, if you have a LinkedIn profile, can stumble across your LinkedIn profile. So that's your online brand as well. What does it say about you? Does it give the reader of your LinkedIn profile that kind of warm, fuzzy feeling, which is a term, that's used nowadays? Do you come across as somebody who's had certain achievements in your career? So what does your LinkedIn profile say about you? What does your CV say about you? If it's, if you've taken the time to register it on some of the job sites as well, or if you've taken the time to register with some agencies also, because when the recruitment consultant uploads your CV onto their database, and they put in certain buzzwords, is your CV going to come to their attention? So if you're a software developer, what technologies are you using? Are all of those technologies listed on your CV? If you're a finance person, does it say finance? Does it say, what it needs to say in terms of, catching the attention of the reader? So, again, asking yourself the question, who needs to see your CV online? Right now, at this point in time today, can the right people access my CV online? And again, I just add the LinkedIn piece. So if I have taken time to do a LinkedIn profile, what does it look like? Are the dates on my job, in my job positions, do they sync up? Is there consistency? Have you done some really good things in either it might be if you're starting off in your career, would a college lecturer maybe or a college colleague say something about you and give you a recommendation online? There's a whole host of things that you can do to elevate your profile online. So have a think about the recommendation section as well on LinkedIn. So are there people out there who would say good things about you? And would you be comfortable asking them to give you a public recommendation on LinkedIn? Because, I've seen people get jobs over the years where, somebody has seen their LinkedIn and they've seen some very strong recommendations and it causes them to engage with them. And I suppose there's, essentially, there's more familiarity, if you like, because people who've worked with you are saying it was a pleasure to work with you, such a great work colleague, etc. It builds familiarity. And as a result, people are more likely to engage with you and you're more likely to catch their attention through your LinkedIn or your CV as well. As I said, the last piece there is to conduct a quick exercise to, asking a colleague or whoever to Google you to see how searchable you are online. What does your brand look like? Where is your CV to be found? Because visibility, brand awareness, and connectivity are the key pieces to achieving job success, whatever job success may look like for you. So then just a couple of more slides before we finish. So the success banking piece. So I think by our nature, we can be very hard on ourselves, and it's about sometimes reframing how we see successes. And I do a lot of coaching with people separately, and I found that they've had great successes along the way. But, their perception of it is that, Killian, that's just part of my job. I mean, that's not really a success. But, maybe other people might gauge it that it actually is a success, So give yourself credit for the little pieces that, you're achieving along the way. And for some people, it can be doing, maybe just a journal at the end of a day to actually kind of, if you like, document the successes that you've had that day. So that might be just sending, a job application to a role, following up on a role, tweaking your CV, helping, it could be anything really, but it's great, I suppose, to get that written down in writing, because you'll have a bad day maybe on a Wednesday or a Thursday where you might be a little bit more challenged and your energy mightn't be as good, but it will keep you kind of resilient and accountable to the process of finding a job. If you look back in your diary from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and you see that there's successes there, and it gives you just a bit of a lift. So I think it's about banking those little successes. So, I know this kind of maybe sounds jargony a little bit, but set up that little career bank of success. So and it goes without saying, in any banking, I suppose, account that you have, the more credit you have on it, as distinct from the debits, then, it looks better, and it feels better. So again, taking a step back at the end of the week to see, you know, what are the credits or what are the successes in your success bank, and being proud of it and being able to say, okay, look, you know, I've done reasonably well this week, you know, and I have more to build on then for next week. And it keeps you committed and I suppose accountable to the process really of achieving career success. And again, success banking can be used not just for job applications or whatever, it can be used for anything. Any goal you have in life, it can be used. So, you know, we sometimes need to, and if you Google reframing success, I think that's very much out there. I mean, one version's view of success can be very, very different to somebody else's. So don't be hard on yourself, cut yourself a bit of slack, I think. Make a plan, you know, commit to this. And again, your accountability partner can help you here, whereby you're going to commit to, you know, putting any successes you've had that week, no matter how small they are, into the success bank, and you go through it with your accountability partner or your career coach at the end of the week or at the end of the month to see what really, really good things you did that week. And, you know, you get an energy from that, I can guarantee you. So invariably, you know, you'll tend to find that the more you have in the success bank, you know, the more you can call upon it when you're kind of having a tough day, and it makes it easier to be positive, I guess, as well as you move forward, you know. So and just one other thing at this point in time in terms of goal setting is it's a very simple formula, but it's one that I use continuously, and I find it's a framework within which people find easy. It's quite, shall we say, it's, you know, it's just something that you can relate to, and it's called the grow model. So the G stands for what your goal is. The R is what's the reality right now. So how many jobs have I applied for? How many recruitment companies have I engaged with? How many interviews have I had? And then the O is what are the options available to you? And it's worth spending time on the O part. So, you know, what are the options? You know, what are the companies who are hiring out there? Have I explored all of the opportunities within my space? Is the remote working piece now going to open up more options for me? So is location no longer an issue? Is the option to get a second opinion on my CV? Do I have an option to really kind of, you know, I suppose, elevate my CV, do a better job on my CV? Is there an option to get better at, you know, interviews? Is there an option to seek out a career coach or an advisor to help me with interviews? You know, and is there an option, I suppose, in general, just to maybe change career even at times, you know, where people might, you know, have a, you know, decision to make around the route they're looking to go down. And then obviously the other options can be around education, obviously, and courses available to you to help you to make that next move as well. But it's worth spending time on the option piece. And then I suppose when you've explored all the options, what are you prepared to do? Again, so this is the accountability piece. So are you prepared to roll up the sleeves, take some of the knockbacks that you'll invariably get when you know, interviews sometimes don't go your way, or you don't even get an interview as well? You know, are you prepared? Are you kind of ready for that mentally, I suppose, for that emotional roller coaster that is the job search process? And, you know, this is the accountability piece again, committing to actions, as I said. So how many times am I going to apply for jobs? Am I going to follow up on all jobs within a 5-day period? Am I going to really work on my LinkedIn? Am I going to ask for recommendations? And staying accountable to what you committed to doing, and working closely with either a career coach or an accountability partner to help you move forward. Stay positive through your self-talk as well. And you would be very, very surprised if you tweak this along the way and get a second opinion on the various steps. I think it could set your search process up for real success. And that's really it. I think just to be conscious of the self-talk. If there's a bit of negativity creeping in, as I said, it's very, very hard to kind of wrestle yourself away from that habit if you do get called for interview, because your energy will be a little bit less positive, and you know the interviewer will pick up on that, of course, and it's harder to kind of sell yourself and build a rapport on the interview Zoom call or the in-person interview as well. And I think the last piece is it's worth doing an exercise around searchability. So where is your CV to be found? Where can it be found? When someone finds it, does it read well? Does it look well? Does it sell your achievements well? What does your brand look like? And get a second opinion and ask somebody, you know, does it not look so good? Does it really capture my career achievements? You know, and get that objective, honest feedback, because without that, I think, you know, you'll always have blind spots. You'll always kind of, you know, be left wondering, you know, were there little bits and pieces along the way that I could have just tweaked to set my job search process up for a real success? So, so there's lots in there, folks, but I'm sure the slide will be available afterwards as well. and just stay positive, stay resilient, and you know, at any stage, feel free to reach out to somebody, whether it be a colleague or a coach, because you know there is help out there. But everybody is aware that you know it can be tough at times to either change career, get back into the job market, or get started as a graduate as well. You know, so but there's little pieces there along the way that can potentially help you.
Killian, thank you so much. You're an absolute mine of information. So much great stuff there. Really practical and really good to hear.
Yeah.
So look, thank you, and thank you so much for. I know we brought you in a little bit early.
That's all right. No worries.
Very grateful for that, and I know people will be able to reach out to you directly, I'm guessing, through your website.
Absolutely, yeah. So sorry, the slide there as well is so it's Killian at progresscoaching.ie, and I'm quite active on LinkedIn as well if people want to just reach out, you know. And if I have time, I'm always happy to help people as well, because you know, I've been a candidate myself for a long time, and I suppose really being in recruitment for over 10 years, and I have the grey hairs to prove it as well. It's you know, it can be difficult, and I know it's difficult, you know, and it's people can become a little bit disgruntled at times as well, but there is help out there. And as I said, look, a few tweaks in your process and it could help you out big time, you know.
And it's funny, you know, from the other side of things, we've had people speaking this morning about some of their experiences working in some of these tech companies and absolutely loving the atmosphere and loving the group dynamic, even during a pandemic. And they're looking forward to meeting up in real life again. So there is there's great positivity to be gained from it. At this stage, Killian, I will say thank you so much.
No worries.
Great to get to hear you speak today, and thank you for giving up your time. Really appreciate it.